Welcome to the Post-Human Podcast.
Today's guest, the owner and chief founder of Dogs and Men, and this is going to be a good show because as a huge dog lover, we've yet to speak about dogs once on the show. So the chief owner, Michael Overlie. God damn it, I said it wrong.
That's okay. I get it all
Oh,
the time.
it is Overlie. We'll keep that as a bonus promo. So yeah, it's Michael Overlie. So how are you today, sir?
I'm outstanding. Thank you for having me on.
No, thank you for coming on. So I've gave your website a little bit of a look over, and it's very intriguing that the packages that you do was the first thing that I noticed. Tell me a little bit about exactly what you do, and then let's plug your website a little bit because I'm very very intrigued. Um, and it's a strange, very niche category in a way.
It's a very niche category. I don't know anybody who's doing something quite like this, which is cool and quite intimidating at the same time. So, yeah, so I had this realization a while back of what our dogs actually are trying to give us, and I decided to create a whole business around it. So currently, I'm offering an online course, and I have a discount code for your listeners if you would like. Um, and that is an 8 week. It's kind of it's a journey. It's a trip back into trying to remember who you are and finding yourself. The whole premise of this for myself is to help others kind of find what their life purpose is.
Right? Okay.
People who have been successful at certain things, maybe living someone else's dream, and they realize that there's more, and your dog kind of has an in to who you are already.
Yeah, that makes perfect
So
sense.
it does. It does. I mean, nobody knows you better, right? So,
Well,
um,
animals
yeah.
replicate humans. You know, it's like when you have a cat. Some cats. I've got a theory with cats that if you're an asshole and then you've got this asshole cat, well, there's a reason for that. It's not because the cat has decided to be a prick. It's because he's following the traits of its owner. Same could be said for dogs.
Mhm.
You know, and I can completely see where you're coming from. That makes complete sense, 100%.
Absolutely. And I think our animals are trying to teach us different things. We try and look at it as, I'm the owner and I need to control this behavior instead of being open to what are they trying to show me. So it's quite fascinating. Um, yeah. So the course is kind of the primary offering, and after that, I do one-on-one coaching, and we'll also be doing group coaching moving forward.
What made you, obviously, you said it was an intimidating thing. What makes you intimidated by it? Just because it's a singular thing and it's on its own? Because it's so niche? I mean, I can kind of understand why it's an intimidating thing in a way, but that would be my perspective, and I'm not really living what you're doing.
Yeah, so it's very interesting. I mean, I think more and more people are seeing and feeling different things going on in their world, and but they're waiting for someone else to show them the way and do something about it. So stepping out into creating these niche and this is now my focus. This is now my job. This is now my purpose. Um,
It's a good one.
that was a
Very
big
good.
step for me. And I've worked corporate. Worked in a hospital emergency room for years and years. I've done all these interesting things, but stepping out on my own and doing something that hasn't really been done before, as far as I know. Um, yeah, it was definitely intimidating, but I'm past the scared point.
But that's kind of why. I mean, it's like being a podcaster. You know, it's the same sort of principle. You're just going out and you just. It is kind of intimidating in a way because you're out there talking to people and things can just go south in a second. Um, but starting a company is completely different, especially one where it is very niche. And I'm a huge dog lover. I always have been. I've owned multiple dogs. I had a French English Bull Mastiff that me and a friend owned, called Myra. She was a gorgeous dog. But I've had like border collies and stuff like that as well. And they really do, like I say, the most problem is a lot of people just mistreat dogs and get them for like presents and gifts and stuff like that, like Christmas times, and then they end up in
Mhm.
shelters. And there's no way that animals are very emotional. It's a fact. You know, you can look at a dog and just sometimes you can look at a dog and know it's sad. And you know, well, how's that? You can only do that with dogs, really. You can't look at a cow and go, man, you know, you look sad. You can only do that with a dog. You can look in its eyes and you can sort of see its soul in a way. But obviously, the problem is, you know, you get all these animals that are neglected, and then you know they become rescues, and that's a very tricky thing sometimes, that people just want to get the dogs and love them, but some animals can never really turn back, you know, from that point of neglect, and it's kind of very sad, and it's a very tricky thing sometimes. Have you ever had to deal with sort of anything like that? Because you know, for what you do, I'd imagine you'd have come across many dogs, like.
Mhm.
Um, but have you ever had these moments where you're like, oh god, this is pretty tricky, you know, and then turned it around, you know, because it can be done. It's not impossible.
Mhm. Oh, absolutely. That's a great point. From one of my own dogs to volunteering at a local shelter not far from where I live, come upon some dogs who are not doing well, behaviorally. I had a Labrador Newfoundland mix who was
Hmm.
I called him my problem child.
That's a strange
He
mix.
It was a strange mix. He was a good sized boy, around I don't know, what's that, about 40 kilos.
Yeah, yeah. My uncle's got a Newfoundland, and
Uh,
I couldn't imagine breeding them bad boys together. That's
uh,
very strange.
yeah, he was super dog aggressive, and tried professional trainers and other things, and well, I was told he could never get along with another dark colored dog and all this stuff, and I thought it was crap. So I decided to change it and come at it from a different perspective, and I ended up getting another black lab as well, and they became best of friends. But he always had this edge, and it was something that I had to just accept at a certain point and realize that he's not going to behave exactly as I want him to behave all the time, and that was okay. But I had to realize that I couldn't change him. It wasn't like,
Yeah, yeah,
rebuilding a car. I couldn't make it into what I wanted. I had to realize that no, this is just who he is, and that's okay. So that was a huge lesson for me.
yeah, yeah. But even then, you can get a car and you can change all the parts, but it's never going to run correct.
Hmm. True that.
You can replace every part, and doesn't. An example, you could replace the engine and everything, but then the chassis could go, or the bodywork could just crumble. But you know, it's just so strange that it was an aggressive dog as well, because Newfoundlands are pretty tame, and so are
Yeah.
Labradors. I
Yeah,
mean, it's
I think
very
part of it had to
strange.
do with, when he was a puppy. I think he was abused, and certain hand motions, he would get real nervous, and so
Uh,
I think someone had their way at him a little bit when he was young.
yeah, that's the only problem. I mean, I've seen there's so many scumbags out there that you know just mistreat dogs, and I mean, I've known a few people. Well, one of my friends took a dog off somebody once because they was just mistreating the life out of it, and he just went round there one day, and they were best friends. But he just went round there seeing this dog, and he was like, "Man, I'm taking this dog." Like, just straight up took it, and
Yep.
it was pretty fair. You know, I can't hate on anyone for that, and he gave it a much better life as well. And
Awesome.
it was just a super cool moment. There's a few people that I've known that have done that as well. Which, I mean, I don't ever think that they should ever get to the stage of going in like rescue places or anything like that, because it's just, it's not a fucking nice environment. You know, some of them are okay, but I know that some of them are very underfunded. You know, they don't get a lot of money, and hence why there is dog charities and the RSPCA and whatever. But sometimes they just don't get the right funding, and then it's just
Hmm.
so sad. You know, it's especially I used to know a woman that worked in one, and she said it was one of the saddest jobs that she'd ever had. She used to love working with animals, and she went into it for like a good intention, but 9 times out of 10, what you know, she just was like, I had to put another dog down, and it was like, fuck it. You know, she'd come home emotional because of the trauma that she'd gone through, and you get attached to these dogs, and it's so it's, you know, it's hard. It's hard. So,
Yeah, it is.
and again, that's almost the reverse of what you do, because yours is what you do is completely inspirational. It's the flip reverse of that horrible story that I just said. Like, and it's not so it's not horrible because but it is. You know, it's but dogs are such a they're great animals. What's your favorite breed of dog?
I used to think I had one. 'Cause I grew up with an Australian Shepherd,
Oh, okay.
and he was off his cookie. That dog was he was so smart. He was challenging, like, for the entire family. He was so smart. Um, but I've had the Australian Shepherd, and then Labs, and then my last little buddy who passed away a couple months ago. He was a pit bull mix,
Ooh,
and he was so sweet and funny. He was just amazing. Um, I think people get whatever dog for whatever reason. Maybe it's they like the look of them, or they some behavioral traits. But when it comes down to, I think, is dogs end up with people for certain reasons, for to teach them lessons. So
okay.
yeah, I like the funny sporty breeds, the high energy dogs. Um, yeah, yeah, because I'm outside. I'm in the mountains. I'm cruising along the lakes and the rivers and in the forest, and I want dogs to
You're
like to be outside and run around.
you need like a working breed really when you're out there. You know,
Yeah. Oh yeah, I love the
some
cattle dogs too. They're so smart and energetic, and but they herd people as well.
yeah. Well, that's the other thing is they're just so intelligent, and people just give them so much less credibility than they deserve. You
Mm,
know, there's a reason that they're called man's best friend. You
yeah.
know, there's a legitimate reason for that. It wasn't just some term that someone coined out of thin air. You know.
Yeah. No, somebody along the way said, "Hey, wait a minute. There's something really going on here."
Yeah. So, what made you get into it? You said you've done multiple different jobs, and you've, been around a bit in terms of what you said you'd done. So, what made you really get into what you do now? It was a sort of something that happened to you, or was it just something that you've always been passionate about?
Always been a huge dog fanatic. Um, but something happened about 4.5 years ago when my brother passed away.
Sorry to hear that.
It
Sorry.
was, yeah. Oh, thank you, thank you. It was time for him. It's okay. But at the time, I kind of felt like I'd lost my hero. He was an amazing guy, and I just grieved him so hard. And what happened during that process? It wasn't just grieving my loss of him. It was all these things throughout my life that started to come up, and I was able to release so much. I mean, I was bawling like a little baby,
Yeah, yeah,
laying in this chair and just writhing and letting go of all these things. It was amazing. But what happened after that was it cracked open this shell I had built around myself, right? Knocked down this wall, and I started noticing other things, and I started training in different modalities and energy work, and learning about herbs and natural remedies and all these things. And I started realizing there's so much more out there, as well as what these animals are doing. And I witnessed my own dog doing healing work with other people, and that I didn't notice before.
yeah.
And it was fantastic. And I thought, oh my God, this has been going on the whole time, but I just wasn't aware of it. And I thought, oh my gosh, how can I help other people with this? And I know that men have a tougher time opening to these things, and
There's the pro.
admitting that they can't do everything on their own.
Well,
And
there's a processing time as well. Is I'd imagine that when you said that everything just came out. I mean, I'm one of these people that just bottles it all down and just eats it all, and then when shit hits the fan, I'm like, oh god, and then it all just again, overspills. So
yeah,
I'd imagine was that sort of the case? Sorry,
absolutely.
not
Oh yeah,
going
and
up.
I'm a small guy in stature, so I've always had this need to prove myself to the bigger guys around me. Like, when I was in high school, um,
I'm
I,
5'7", by the way.
yeah, I'm 5'6", but most of my friends were, these were guys who were on the football team, and these are bigger guys, and I always had to prove myself, and I would do these stupid stunts and all this adrenaline junkie shit, and that's what I felt like I needed to do to be recognized, and to, that I was enough. So I've done all this just wild extreme sports stuff for a lot of my life. And it's because I didn't feel like I was enough. And the biggest lesson that I got from my dogs was that no, you are enough just as you are. You're not broken. There's nothing to be fixed. But I wasn't able to see that before.
There's unconditional love from animals as well. Then unless you severely fucking screw your pets over, they're always going to love you.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what also makes it kind of sad. What kind of extreme sports was you doing? Because I was almost the same sort of you know I was 5'7". I weren't exactly great at sports. Um, I've got a mangled, messed up foot. So and from the UK, football, that was all it was for sports.
Yeah.
I mean, I was pretty sweet at badminton, but you've only got to move a little bit for that. But kicking a ball in a straight line doesn't happen. So I also was like skateboarding. I was doing
Mm-hmm.
rock climbing, skiing, a
Yep.
whole mess of adrenaline, fueled stuff. So what kind of stuff was you into?
I was a scuba diver.
Ooh, that's
And I had
pretty sweet.
a buddy and we started doing really stupid shit and seeing if we could top.
Scuba.
Oh yeah, we would top out the Navy dive tables and stay down longer than we should and try and skip decompression stops and um,
Wow, getting
yeah, not
whooped,
exactly bright.
getting whooped. That's meant to be a really good high. Is that
Yeah, it's not called
that?
nitrogen narcosis.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
couldn't remember
so yeah,
exactly what it was called.
we did some stupid stuff there. Skiing. I was a big skier. I started skiing when I was a little kid, and I got to a point where I was never, like World
Yeah,
Cup
no,
league, anything like that. But I would
I'm
I
pretty
would
good.
climb. I'd climb like this place in Lake Tahoe. Like we climbed Donner Summit in a full moon. It's not a ski resort. It's just a mountain.
Oh,
We climbed that thing and skied in a full moon.
that's super cool.
It was super cool, yeah, and super stupid. I mean, one
Yeah,
fall and you know
all
it's
off
dark
piste.
out and they wouldn't find you for a day.
Well, I
But
mean, it's off piste, but if you was to put it on a rating, what would you probably put it as? Like a hard red, an easy black, you know?
yeah, at least a single black.
Yeah, yeah.
And doing it at night made it just more interesting. Um,
That's nuts.
yep.
Skiing in the dark.
Oh yeah, did mountaineering, ice climbing. I
Yeah, I
mean, I
imagine
just
rock climbing's fun.
yeah, I did a little rock climbing, but a lot of high angle approach stuff. Um,
I prefer bouldering myself.
mm,
My dad is a serious rock climber, or was back in the day. But I prefer bouldering. It was I'm no Alex Honnold, but
right.
I'm pretty good. But it's just I haven't climbed for many years now. Ice climbing is a different league though. That's super dangerous. There's I can't remember where it is now. It might be somewhere in Finland or somewhere. Then there's a route, and basically you can only climb it X amount of days of the year, because
Mm.
at the top of the place is some sort of at the top of the route is like a processing plant or some bullshit, and every so often they just pour boiling water over the edge. So you can imagine like being on the wrong day and fucking up, and you're halfway up with your crampons,
Oh,
and then this mass amount of hefty boiling water comes tipping over the edge. Like, it's so bizarre that it's but it's meant to be like one of the most best routes in the world, but it's just only open. I can't remember exactly where it was. I think it might be in sure it was in like Iceland or somewhere like that. Somewhere
oh my
pretty
God.
pretty random. But it's you couldn't imagine it. Like, how would you? The timing as well would be crazy. It'd be like some Game of Thrones shit, where where they're climbing up the wall and then there's some big fuck off trap waiting for you. It's oh man,
Right? Or a dragon.
yeah. Well, I think they'd be really scared if there was some dragons floating around there. There's a very strange. It's funny getting onto that little segue. I seen a video the other day that was on YouTube, and there was some people claiming that there was some weird rumbling, sort of growling hum noise in China somewhere, and the locals were all claiming that it was a dragon, and it was some bizarre viral video that had just come out, and it was so random because it didn't even. I mean, it was just like a weird sort of roar in the distance, and all these people were out flocking trying to look for this dragon. And then the government officials were like you shouldn't be doing that, which was which was so strange. Like, why can't they? It's not real. You telling me they're going to find a dragon?
Yeah,
Fuck out
or
of here.
is it?
Well, clearly something's going on, but it's so strange how it lured back round to this dragon thing. I mean,
How funny.
I'm on some weird sort of subreddits and stuff like that, and that's how I come across it. It was like on one of the excuse me, one of the conspiracy pages, and it was like dragon spotted in China with this weird sort of cloud shape dragon, as a thumbnail, and I was like, oh, let's see what this is all about. And 7 wasted minutes later, I was still pretty concluded that it was a load of bullshit. So I just wanted to put that out there while the dragon was mentioned. It was
Yeah, but what if?
well, I think that probably
That's funny.
I think that dragons probably were real back in the day. Why would we just not say that there was dinosaurs? Maybe they just had really shitty bones. They had to have been. They had to get up in the air. They'd have to have dense bones that would be thin and they'd break easy, like bird bones. You don't see any bird skeletons around. They just, but if you used to walk out after 100 years into a desert, after a vulture had died, you wouldn't see shit. There'd be no bones.
Right.
Well, I think there probably were dragons. They just had very hollow, brittle bones that just decomposed quick.
That's funny.
Dinosaurs were real.
Yeah.
Pterodactyls were. Maybe they were just
Yeah.
big ass pterodactyls. And there was a few, there was a few left after the Great Flood, and the legend was passed down. Watch out for those big flying fucking beasts. They're gonna steal your children.
Big ass pterodactyl.
One man comes along, slayers the shit out of it. Next thing you know, you got fucking King Arthur. Who knows?
Yeah.
Never know. Myths and legends, man. I believe in a
I
lot
love
of them.
it.
I think that you can put some sort of weird truth behind a lot of them.
Well, yeah. Isn't there a truth behind each legend, right? Or each myth?
Yeah, it's got to be. I think Jesus was a real person. He was probably just some carpenter guy who was just extremely smart, and everyone was like, "Man, he's a smart dude. We should, be his friend. We should follow that guy. He's got a lot of good words to say," rather than listening to the shit that's everyone else is pumping out.
Mm-hmm.
And then next thing, it becomes a bigger thing, and maybe some weird incident happens, and word of mouth passes around. Then he comes out of some cave, and next thing is the Son of God. Who knows? There was a lot of shit. I believe in just mixing up history with bullshit, and hoping one day, in 100 years, someone will go, "Man, that dude got it all right."
There you go.
After the Great Reset. Let's get back onto the topic of dogs. You spoke a little bit about like herbs and stuff like that. What's your thoughts on like homeopathic medicines and dogs? Because some stuff is like pretty good, but I've known people to get some weird shit and it go terribly wrong. And it's a very weird sort of category for for medicines and dogs, especially with homeopathic sort of things. Some of them anyway, not all of them.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. And I know at least I've read over in the UK, they were trying to outlaw homeopathic veterinary medicine.
Yeah.
I'm not sure where that stands now. And I don't know if it's because
I think that was a fair few years ago now.
it was so hard to regulate, or they were worried that the homeopaths were actually correct. Yeah, that's a touchy one. There's a lot of work on the pond here as well. And I know before we had our modern medicine, that's what people were using.
Excuse me.
Were these other ways of living and treating. Medicines come from plants. I mean, all of our modern medicines are just synthesized versions of what we found in plants. So
or animals in some cases as well. Some
exactly.
Random, like sharks. I think we used to take the fins for something or something like that.
Yeah, like there's a big thing of shark fin soup.
There's a soup as well. Sorry, carry on.
Yeah, no, you're good. So yeah, it all came from natural sources to begin with, and I don't know if the big companies are now threatened that people are going to find that out again, and they don't necessarily need to buy all these pills. And I don't know, it's really fascinating. I actually did get certified in pet homeopathic medicine, and I'm actually a certified homeopathic pet educator.
Cool. That's such a random qualification.
Isn't that funny?
It's one to be proud of, because it's something that no one. I wouldn't imagine very few people that have qualifications like that are completely are worthwhile because it's not just doing like, hey, I'm going to be a taxman or I'm going to do this. It's like, no, I've got a fucking homeopathic medicine fucking degree in animals. It's like, what the fuck? It's out the box. You know, it's just
Yeah.
it's a very cool thing.
Yeah, it's different. So I approach how I take care of myself, obviously, a little differently as well. I think modern medicine has its place for sure, but I
Yeah,
think there's
yeah.
there's other ways to accomplish similar things.
A bit dubious of
So yeah, one
that.
I was really interested in health, and of our animals as well. So I actually got certified in pet food nutrition. So learned a lot about that as well. So
Yeah, my uncle's certified in that. He
mhm.
started to again. It's the same one that has the Newfoundland. I think he still owns the business, but I don't talk to him much. But he has a dog food company business
Oh, cool.
that I can't exactly remember what he specialises in, but it's very organic, very tip top magoo. It's pretty good. It's not like trash dog food shit that you'd buy in a supermarket. It's pretty legit stuff. But I can't remember if he's still. I know he was a partner with someone with that, but I know in doing so, because you have to get that degree because you can't just start whacking out random ingredients into food
Mm-hmm.
and putting it out there. I remember him saying that it was a tricky thing because obviously we haven't got like the FDA over here or anything like that. We have the equivalent. So even then, you have to go through all this process, and it was very tricky and stressful, extremely tedious. So I could have. You ever thought about doing anything like that on the side? I mean, I couldn't imagine it because again, if you've got the degree, you've already got most of the work done realistically.
It was we don't have the FDA over here, but
Okay, yeah, yeah. But obviously, I could imagine that it's pretty tricky going through that process. Have you ever thought about doing that yourself because you've got the sort of degree? You can, or even maybe as a consultant to companies like that can, because the degree's there. You've done 90% of the work almost.
yeah,
Apart from
yeah.
sourcing raw ingredients and that process.
No, and I thought that was a focus before, but it was kind of it was a step in this direction. So as far as information, somebody asked me, sure, I'll help them out, no problem. But that's just not where I want to spend my
Yeah,
time.
yeah.
It's not my focus, but it's great information to have. For me, I understand now it was more about um, energy. So about the energetics of it, and that's how homeopathy works. It's the energetics of the compound, not necessarily the chemical compound.
Well, I mean, I remember they was. I think the thing with what it was in the UK was because of fireworks and the effect that they have on dogs.
Mm-hmm.
I'm fucking super against fireworks. Like, they're fun, but if you're in the middle of nowhere, you know. But if you've got 50 people on one street and you're all blazing fireworks off on one night, if you're an animal, that is terrifying. You
Mm-hmm.
know, it's a big bang for me. Sometimes you hear these ridiculous bangs. It's like boom, and I've got a son, and I'm like, man, that's gonna fucking wake him up. And it shits me up. You hear this big bang out of nowhere right above your fucking house. Luckily, we haven't got pets, but I know a lot of my neighbours have. But I couldn't imagine the sensitivity that must be for a dog.
Oh
Like
yeah,
they
yeah.
hear
I mean,
like was it 6 times, 10 times better than us or some shit like that?
yeah. Well, I mean, and their sense of smell is like 100 times better than ours, right?
I wouldn't even think about that.
Yeah.
Do you
So
think that they would be able to sort of smell and anticipate? Because obviously, when you light it, there's that sort of burning gunpowderish smell, and I don't know
mhm.
whether they'd be able to detect that. But it wouldn't make a
Oh
difference because it's still like a ticking time bomb, isn't it? You can't detect how long it's counting down for based upon a scent.
yeah.
But
I
you
don't know
could.
how far away they could pick
No.
that up from, but
I could imagine that'd
um,
be terrifying because then
yeah.
they'd get this fucking smell of like burning, and then they're like, "Oh no, it's the bang's coming. When is it?" And then boom. So it's kind
Hmm.
of like I think that they really should regulate fireworks a bit better. But sorry, but the reason I remember the homeopathic thing was people were trying to give their dogs something to sort of chill them out. I know some people were giving their dogs CBD, which I'm not fucking agreeing on that, because that's a completely different game. That's human shit, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And there's been some terrible moments where people have gone a bit overboard with CBD and dogs. But I can't remember what it was that they was trying to, because you said there was a moment in the UK where they was trying to stop it all, and I don't know where that is now, but I'm pretty sure it did tie in with, you know, the fact that we have a lot of fireworks and these, and then it just people just wanted to calm their dogs down. But
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. That was me rambling there.
No, that's good. No, I know. There's also like Bach flower essences or Bach flower remedies. There was a guy, his last name Bach, and all these things have been modeled after him. And they still use his name for some of these remedies. But there's stuff that is safe for animals because it's a scent. It's not,
Yeah,
you're not giving your dog this chemical gummy.
some
Um,
consumable thing.
yeah, and then flowers are natural, right? I don't know many or have heard many dogs that would actually go out and seek out a pot plant because of its
No,
properties.
no. Well, I knew a cat that used to. Well, one terrible story. I knew a cat that once ate. Again, I smoked cannabis, and many years ago, like I must have been about 19. Like I was just a little bit reckless, leaving stuff here, there, and everywhere. And I remember waking up one morning, and I was like, "Man, where did I put that weed last night?" And I searched for ages, and it turned out the cat had ate it. It was only like less than a gram, probably like, you know, a 0.3 or something like that. You know, like just a little one spliff. But it was like my morning smoke, and I was like, man, where is that? And I was like, fuck. And then I just was screwing. I opened up my drawers and stuff, and like turned out my cat had just sheer ate it. He slept for a long time. He slept for about 14 hours on a little radiator bed. It was the only conclusion that I can say that it was him. I'm not 100% certain it was him, but based upon my own conclusions and what I was like, I'm not really, you know, I'm pretty reckless with losing stuff, but when it comes to important things, I'm like, nah, I can't. I need that in the morning, you know, just to wake up, wake and bake. And I was like, just when I was so certain that, you know, because you second guess everything all the time sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm one of them people, I'm heavily critical of myself. I second guess everything. Even when I'm right, I'm like, man, I'm pretty sure I'm wrong on that subject. That's how bad I am. Even with actors, same thing. But I drew the conclusion that just because he slept so long, I was like, he ate that. I know he did, but I didn't even hate on him. I just remember looking at him in that bed, and I was like, oh, okay. And I'd thought nothing of it. And then like 6, 7 hours later, I walked by him and he just hadn't moved. Called him for some food, didn't have none of it. And then I got some ham out because I was like, man, he's gonna move for this ham. At this point, I was, you know, the process. I was like, this motherfucker's ate it, and if he doesn't get this ham right now, I know he's had it. So I basically called him for some ham, didn't move, had none of it. So many hours later passed, and then I think I was asleep by this point, or in bed, and I heard him get up because I heard his bell jingle. Went downstairs, checked his bowl. He'd demolished all this fucking food that I'd left for him, and then just went back to bed. And I was like, yep, that's him. Yeah, it's crazy animals, man.
That's awesome.
I was quite shocked if he did eat it. That it must have been a wild ride for him, but you know, it's kind of why I feel sorry for the dogs that people have gone, yeah, have some CBD oil, and you're like, man, you don't even know what's going on. They don't even process shit the same, you know?
Yeah, it's not something they would normally
Ah,
ingest.
well,
So that stuff freaks me out a little bit.
yeah, well, I mean, for humans, not necessarily. I mean, for animals, they just. I think nowadays they've made a pill that you can take that's like a CBD pill for dogs, but I'm not sure on that. And I think that's actually very, very small, minute amounts.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah, it's popular here.
I couldn't imagine the testing behind that. That's the only other big scrutiny I have with, you know, even when you're testing medicines, you've got to test it somewhere, and you know, you don't necessarily know how that always goes. You know, there's a lot of strange, you know, strange things with animal testing. Heavily against it. What? Oh, that was what it was. You ever heard of ambergris?
No.
Oh, why has nobody heard of that? I was I thought with the herbs and stuff like that, and you'd have heard of that. It's the whale sort of. I think it's what is it? It's like whale vomit or something, and they use it for like it's very rare and extremely valuable, and I think they use it for a lot of makeups and medicines and stuff.
Oh,
But I didn't know if I've asked that question twice now, and I thought more people would have heard of ambergris. Hmm,
well, I know they use
it's
they or
crazy.
used to use whale fat
Yeah.
in all kinds of things, perfumes
Yep.
and makeups and other chemical compounds and things that we would ingest. Um,
The
yeah, but I don't know about ambergris.
Norwegians, the Finnish people. You know, they were. I think they were probably the pioneers of that because they were all whalers.
Yeah.
Um, and they used to use a lot of the fat and stuff like that to preserve stuff and make fucking. I think they used to make like candles. You know, because
Hmm.
because it's still flammable, and I think they used to essentially do some sort of old school alchemy and turn them into candles. They used to use it for all sorts of shit. The
Yeah, oil lamps.
whales, yeah, oil lamps, yeah. That's I think that's what I'm talking about. Sometimes I just get heavily confused with the amount of information I process in a day. I'm always on overspill, is what I call it. You big cat fan? Because I seen a cat a minute ago, which was
Yeah, yeah. No, I'm at my partner's house. And she's got a cat here.
oh you so it isn't your cat.
Not my cat, no, but
Dun, dun,
every time I'm here, she's all over me.
You cat lover, or are you just a singular dog fan? Because some people are always, either one. There's very
Yeah,
few people that are just, unless you're a hefty animal lover and you love all animals. It's very rare that you're like, yeah, man, I love cats and dogs.
yeah. No, I love the cats too.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, my neighbor's cats come to me all the time. They see me out and they just run over because they know they're going to get some loving.
Well, that's the other thing about cats is they always make you get that attention as well. They make you work for it. My cats do. Whereas a dog, he's always there. He's always your friend. A cat, he don't give a shit. If you
Yeah,
like I say, if you got food, even then he's like, I don't know, man. I'm doing my own thing, and then he'll just stick his butthole at you and just go,
yeah,
yeah, take this and walk away. That's what they do, man. Fiends, cats. But
yeah.
dogs,
They're awesome.
dogs don't do that, man. Which is why I'm a big dog fan. What's your thoughts on? I mean, there's very few purebred dogs left now. Because of all the interbreeding, and obviously they have a lot of problems like hip dysplasia, and
Mm.
like the pugs with the breathing issues. And what's your thoughts on that? Because obviously it's mostly mixed bred dogs now, which is so crazy that normal full bred dogs are worth a fortune.
Hmm.
And even then they still have hefty amounts of issues. What's your thoughts on that? Because I mean, I kind of think it's terrible, but it's such a weird because it's become a market. I don't think that's helped. I don't know.
No, it's a good point. I think so. A lot of breeds have been overbred,
Mm,
and in doing so, we've actually changed their DNA. And that's why we're seeing all these health issues. It's not natural for dogs to have these problems. This is my own opinion. I'm not a veterinarian. I'm not a genetic scientist.
oh no,
But
so
this is what I take away from it. And the mixed breed dogs or mutts
yeah,
seem to have fewer of these specific health issues. So, like German Shepherds have hip problems, and
yeah,
pugs obviously they're brachycephalic. They don't have much of a face. They don't have much of a nose, and they
it's
have trouble
crazy.
breathing.
You're not
Um,
even meant to spray like aerosols in the same room as them.
yeah,
Like if you've got deodorant, you can't you shouldn't even do that. And
yeah,
most people don't even know that. Like it's such I know a lot of people that have owned pugs, but they bought them at the moment where it was that trend dog, and I was like, you do, and well, it's not so much as a friend now because we don't talk. But even then, it was like spraying some deodorant. I was like, man, you can't do that. I was like, you do realise that dog's nose is fucked, and its cavity is so small, and those like aerosol particles are just instantly going in there,
mm,
and it's just it's dangerous as fuck, man. Like, and he just looked at me like, oh, what do you know? You know, one of them. And in the end, he stopped doing it because I was like, man, just Google it. You know, he was one of those skeptical people. It was like, nah, what do you know? And I was like, man, Google it. And he was like, oh yeah, shit, sorry. Yeah, sorry, bro. I was like, listen, don't say sorry to me. Say sorry to your fucking dog. You know?
Yeah, and I tell people the same thing. Don't trust a one freaking word I say. You know, I'm not making it up.
Yeah,
I may notice some other things, but yeah, do your own homework.
Well, that's the thing, man. I know I'm wrong a lot of the time. Like you're just saying, you know, you can't really take your own word. And anything even we hear is, unless you've got qualifications in something and that's completely, provable. You know, it's just a lot of stuff is just word of mouth and second-hand knowledge from Google. And then, I've known a lot of friends to tell me some really bullshit stories. Like, this well, this was one that I invented. I think I didn't invent it, but I told it around everyone just because I'd read it somewhere that, or maybe I heard it somewhere, that pugs were made for lion taming or some shit like that. Like there was some sort of, I can't remember where I heard about it, which is it's ridiculous. I can't remember where I heard it. It might have been a joke that they were bred for lion taming, which is just so stupid.
Maybe lion snacking.
Yeah, I mean, I can't remember. I'd love to remember where I'd heard it. It only just come to my head then. But every friend that I'd had that had a pug in that moment, it must have been a fair few years ago that I heard it, because it was during that, handbag dog movement. But I remember telling friends, I was like, man, you've got the best dog ever. It was bred for lion taming. Them motherfuckers can fight lions. He's like, what? And I'm like, yeah, man, Google it.
Oh my god.
I'm sure it's probably on there as well as a joke. Like I'll send him to like the Onion or somewhere,
The Onion's great.
Yeah. I've sent a few people there with fake bullshit because it's all completely false. And I've sent a few people there just as a joke, and they're like, man, I can't believe that. And I'm like, you gullible motherfucker. It was funny. Are you a fan of comedy?
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever heard of Tim Dillon?
Tim Dillon, no. Is he over there?
No, he's stateside.
Oh, no kidding. Okay.
Very funny, very very against the grain on comedy. Is very funny. Says very wild things. For a moment, he had me convinced. A couple of weeks ago, I mean, a lot of stuff is pretty, it's funny and right on, but he just takes the piss, but it takes it to a different level. And there was a moment where he'd posted on Twitter when it was the start of the Olympics, and he'd posted this thing about a commentator whose mic was still hot, like as people were coming out, and it was and I wasn't listening at the time because I was just listening to some music or something, and I was just watching it, and it had subs on, and I was reading the subs, and I was like, what the fuck? I was like, no way did the dude say that. And it was just totally slandering every country, and I was like, that can't be real. But years ago, I think it did happen, like to some mild extent. So I was like, man, that's happened again. And I didn't really listen to it because I was just so in my own zone. And I was like, fuck, that's wild, man. Liked it, whatever. And then, like, I went down to the shop and they had the Olympics on. And, like, when I was talking to the guy, Sanjay, who see him every day, and I was like, man, you won't believe this. And I was like, you hear about that guy who had the fucking hot mic on in the Olympics? And he was like, no, I ain't heard anything like that. And obviously convinced him, because I thought it was real. Well, obviously I'd convinced him that it was. I was like, yeah, check it out when you get back, man. I was like, showing him the link and that, but still didn't put any volume to it. And then got home, and then I was just fucking around. And I was like, man, maybe I should actually listen to this. And then I listened to it, and it was his goddamn voice. And I was like, fucking son of a bitch. Like, it's in Tim Dillon's voice. I was like, motherfucker. I'd, like, convinced myself all day that it was, like, completely real. To the point I'd even said, like, I think I even mentioned it to my mum as well at one point. I was like, did you hear that in the Olympics? And, like, it was total fucking bullshit.
That's awesome.
But just because I'd paid about 10% attention. But that's my exact point as well, is like, you can just misinterpret stuff so easily with, under 60 seconds. you know, and that 60 seconds become a whole day's worth of fake news.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. That's the thing. It's a story, right? We hear this little story. It may be somebody else's, but then we turn it into something else.
yeah, it's like it's so crazy. But it's the same thing, you know, with the pugs and you know lion taming. It's
That's awesome.
no one would truly believe it, but it could. It's almost that wild that you could go, oh, I don't know, maybe. Because
Yeah.
if you can convince them, it's oh well, maybe it's because they've got that, you know, they need that short nose to sniff them out, you know. And then they lure them in. They're so small that they can run and hide into holes, and that lion comes in following them, and then they sucker punch the lion. You know,
Yeah.
that's how they. That might be how they use them. Who knows? What other animals have you owned? Because I've owned quite a few. I've owned like fucking bearded dragons. I owned a false widow spider once. It was pretty random. I found it in a car park, and me and 6 friends put it in a tank, and it was just because it was. Well, if it bit you, it hurt, and I was like, man, that'd be cool to own, and it looked super scary. And bear in mind, I'm scared of spiders, but I kept it in my room, fed it flies and shit. It was pretty wild. And occasionally, well, I was dating a girl at the time, and she'd come round and was like, "What's in there?" And I was like, "Oh, it's a false widow spider." She was like, "What the fuck are you even doing with that?" Like, to the point she wouldn't even sleep in the room. I had to take the tank out. Like it was in a little, just a little tiny vivarium, which like I had to let him go eventually. I moved house to Portsmouth, and I just let him go back in the car park,
There you go.
like precariously. You ever owned any crazy animals? Because you can own all sorts of wild shit in the States, man.
Nothing too crazy. Had a chameleon as a kid.
That's pretty cool.
That was pretty fun. And he disappeared. Obviously, I didn't keep the lid on.
Lost it.
Probably found a skeleton later. Yeah, had a cat one time, and then the dogs. But I've been lucky enough to grow up around like farms at times, and so I've been exposed to lots of horses and obviously cows. The place where I live now, we've got goats and llamas out
Oh,
back.
that's cool. I'm a huge
Yeah,
llama fan.
yeah, yeah, and they're
Since
funny.
goats.
And the
No.
goats are hilarious.
Do you ever scare them? Make them
No,
fall over?
no, yeah, the fainting goats. Yeah,
I don't advocate it, but people don't even believe that as well. People go like, no, that ain't real. You're like, yeah, it really is. There's
yeah,
tons of videos, man. Yeah, it's funny to see on a video, but to do it yourself's pretty cruel.
yeah, I wouldn't do that.
No, I mean I wouldn't. I'm a huge animal lover. I'm not that kind of person.
Uh,
But,
yeah,
it's so cool. Llamas, I'm a big fan of llamas. I don't know what it is about them. Maybe it was just during that weird llama movement. You know, it was the same with like pugs. Every so often, there's these animals that tend to be very trendy. You know, alpacas. That was quite a recent one. Pugs. I don't know what the next one will be. It's hard to predict. I'm hoping it'll be something random, like a snake or something.
Black
got all
walnut.
these-
Yeah,
yeah.
everybody's got to get
Everyone's
thin out the population, wouldn't we?
get some of those big ass snakes from Florida. Some of those. That should be a fashion trend. Little alligators.
There you
Just
go.
run wild. Although they could become the next new urban legend if that's the case. Like that was a weird thing in America. The urban legend with the alligators in the sewers.
In
That
New
was-
York, yeah.
Yeah, that's strange. What do you think about that? Like urban legends, because America has tons of them. We have like folklore here in the UK, which sounds completely shit. Sounds better as a name, but I don't know. What's your thoughts on those weird urban legends?
I think people want to be distracted. And if there's some really strange story that's actually hard to believe, it's interesting and can keep them from having to worry about dealing with their own shit.
Well, some of them are crazy, like like if you're going down the highway and you turn your lights off or whatever it was. There was that weird one.
Oh yeah, well, you flash your lights at
Yeah.
someone, and then
Yeah, the light flashing thing.
it's a gangbanger who's going to turn around and shoot you as an
Yeah.
initiation. Yeah,
It's so weird. I mean, I'm a bigger fan of the States than I am the UK. Just because there's a lot of, well, mostly conspiracy theories that come out there. And I'm a big fan of those. Huge. Again, you could probably tell from the fact that, you know, I spoke about dragons and King Arthur being a potential real person. Uh, you a fan of any conspiracies?
Um,
You seem like you're probably
I'm
not. You seem
intrigued
like you're
by a
pretty
lot.
level-headed. You seem
Yeah.
pretty, level-headed and screwed on to the point where you're like, oh, I don't believe any of them.
No, well, it's interesting. I mean, think let's go back to the myth kind of hypothesis. There's something behind it, right? So it may not be whatever the story has turned into, what it's become, and what's popularized it and made it even wilder. But what if there's actually some fact behind it?
Which one would you believe in? If you was to go, it's like Noah, the Great Flood. That was an apparent real moment, But that's like a myth. But it's almost like it was, it was in the Bible as well. You got anything along those sort of lines? Any strange sort of, again, you got homeopathic stuff. I'd imagine that there could be somewhere deep inside you that there's some, like I say, with the myths, Noah's a prime sort of example. I think Noah was a real guy. Probably was.
It
You
probably
know,
was. Yeah.
probably
Did
weren't a
things
boat.
happen exactly like it was written in the Bible? I don't know.
Probably weren't even a boat. It's probably one of the pyramids. Probably just
Oh.
all went into there. Fucking sealed that shit up.
There you go. You just
Right.
got to the top and said, okay.
Yeah. Well, it's a good structure.
Yeah.
Water can bounce off it.
How funny.
There's a lot of erosion. Where did
Yeah,
that water
I
come
don't
from?
have any favorite conspiracy theories. There's a lot flying around out there. There was a who is it? There was a wrestler. No,
Oh, a
the
wrestler.
figure Jesse Ventura. Do you ever
Oh
hear?
yeah,
He used
I'm
to
a
have
wrestling
this
fan.
conspiracy theory show.
Really?
Yeah, yeah. I don't know if it's
Holy
on anymore. It was
shit!
years
I'm gonna have to
ago.
write that one down.
But yeah, check it out. He proposed some wild shit.
How did that get by me?
Yeah,
I mean, I'm a
Jesse the
big
Body
wrestling fan.
Ventura. He had
Yeah.
full on show. I mean, professionally produced and all that here. It was Yeah,
Wow, I
check
didn't
that
even
out. It
know
was
that.
really interesting. It was like
Huh.
you'd finish and go, huh?
I mean, I've been a fan of ancient aliens and stuff like that, but sometimes it's just so. I think they copy a lot of their stuff and then they just add, well, we also found out this, and then most of the time it's just people going to visit sites and just speculating. They're like, oh
Mhm.
yeah, we went to Egypt and we looked at it and well, this certainly looks like what we've been fucking saying for years. And it was like, what are you looking at? I don't see anything. I just see a bunch of rocks. They looks the same. And
Yeah.
it's wild though. You a fan of wrestling?
No, no.
Oh god damn it! I thought that was going to be a
Yeah.
complete.
No,
When
it's
whenever
entertaining, but no, I'm not a fan.
I mean, I'm not necessarily a big fan. I like to watch it because it's just fun. I don't watch any of the promos. I don't watch any of the bullshit. I'm a fan of professional wrestling, rather than entertainment. The entertaining side of it is pretty crap. They just shout a lot of shit. You can occasionally see them throw the odd stiff punch, but it's entertaining.
Mhm.
Sometimes you see people do some really athletic stuff, and you go, man, that was pretty good. Some pretty athletic people in the world of wrestling. So I was hoping to catch you on that category, but I failed.
Nice try.
So I know there's been I haven't done a show on wrestling yet, so I've been hoping to, and I was going to lure it into the same one there. But what about any supernatural kind of stuff? Because well, you did just say, in fact, you'd said the stuff flying around out there. Was that a cryptic message that you believe in aliens, UFOs?
Man, I believe almost anything is possible. Absolutely. And I think people notice things and then go, "Oh, did I just nah," and dismiss it out of hand because it's maybe not part of your normal day. Yeah, I
Trick of the
believe
eye.
there's some stuff going on out there that we may not keep in our awareness. Yeah.
I mean, like I say, I believe in a bunch of whole stuff. Some of it I don't believe in completely, but I'm like, if it was true, that'd be cool. I'm not going to say too many of my wild theories because some of them are pretty much. I think like I say, I think some of the myths, there's a lot of stuff behind that. Like we said, especially when you get to Greece and stuff like that. There was a lot of weird creatures like centaurs and fucking
Mhm.
minotaurs and Medusa and shit like that. and they're weird legends. You know, where the fuck did they myths? You know, they're strange. Why would you just come up with a story like that?
Yeah.
And I think that, and I don't think it. I falsely believe that maybe years ago, going back to the ancient aliens thing, people believed that we were genetically fucked around with. Like, you know, there was the aliens came down, fucked around with our DNA a little bit, and then here we are today. Well, I was putting my own bullshit spin on that. Was, well, maybe they got a few things wrong because you don't get things right the first time. So maybe
Yeah.
there was like, hey, let's breed this and this. Let's see what happens there. Let's take this man. We'll make him 50 times bigger. And then we'll have a giant. We'll see what he can do. You know. And then you know, you just get these weird sort of fucking moments. You know, with weird creatures and legends and people having to slay them again. And it's like, these feared creatures that lived on their own and just fucking wreaked havoc.
Why
You
not?
know, I don't know. I mean,
Why
I'd
not?
like to believe that it is, you know, semi true because I mean, it is a myth, but it's a great story. You know, that there was some woman who could maybe not necessarily turn people into stone, but maybe she was part fucking snake, part lady. I don't know. And she just lived in a cave and pissed around and ate kids, so we had to kill her. The
I like
stone,
it.
you know, turning people to stone. That's just the added addition because it's already not enough that she's a part mutant freak that was made by aliens to, you know, as a test. We need to just add on that she turns people to stone, you know, just to make it seem like it was total bullshit. That's my take on it. I think
I like it.
I think that she was real, but the stone thing, I don't buy it. You know, turning people to stone. Where's the proof of that? I don't see any stone statues of these people, and they'd be around. But you know, I also don't see the body of Medusa, so you don't know.
Don't know.
Again, I believe in lots of wild shit, and I just like to make stuff up for fun, just to add some mix into life, because it's pretty mundane at times.
Yeah. No, creativity is, I mean, we're all creative in our own way, but I think people who are a little more open-minded tend to
Yeah,
can create a lot.
I wouldn't necessarily. Yeah, open-minded is definitely one thing, but if you can be too open-minded, I think that's where the destruction can lie. You know, that's where the people start believing in full flat out, you know, flat Earth, and you know that we're in a simulation or whatever, and you know, it's wild stuff. Here's a weird question. Um, what's your thoughts? You ever seen the new robot dogs?
Yeah.
What's your thoughts on those? Because that's a strange. I'm trying to get back onto the dog topic, and segueing it from. In that was my segue. Uh,
I like it. Yeah, I don't know. I think we're so hung up on being able to create our own version of whatever it is. You know, we can go back to the medicines. Um, that we can't accept nature for what it is. You know,
yeah,
think about this. We bring plants, we bring animals, all these things into our homes when they're literally right out the door.
yeah.
You know, but we box ourselves inside, and we know we're missing something. So we bring all this stuff inside to us. And I think that's what those robot dogs are about. Maybe some people can't have a real dog. I don't know. Um, but there's just something you can't replace in a real life form.
No, I mean certainly not for a dog. I mean, I think one of the good reasons is that they'll replace maybe military dogs. You know, and again, you know, military dogs, they get fucking PTSD. Think about the
Hmm.
shit that they go through, man.
Yeah.
There's a lot of fucking dogs that were given awards for crazy fucking stuff. You know, like really crazy stuff, especially in war. I think for that application, it's perfect because, you know, then you can do a very good replacement. You can go, right, okay, let's, for the benefit of this fucking creature, let's bring in a robot version. And
Yeah.
although we don't get the same experience with it, it'll do the job. It'll still do the intended job. No harm done, you know? I think it's probably a good one. There's so many weird fucking cases. You ever hear about the do you ever hear about the bear, the Polish bear in World War II that got that basically went to war
No.
There was a bunch of people that found this bear cub during World War II in like Ukraine or somewhere, and they found this cub, and then they raised it, and then they all got drafted, and then they just brought the bear with them. And then essentially the bear would like smoke and eat cigarettes. It would drink. It would take like fucking long showers. It would do a whole mess of stuff. And then like this was just when they were stationed. And then they basically went out onto the fucking front lines. And then this is the story that the bear witnessed these people obviously carrying the ammunition fucking crates that were, you know, like I don't know, fucking 80 pound or something ridiculous. And struggling, you know, because of a huge fucking crate. And obviously the bear, apparently, took over the position and started carrying the crates and stacking them on the back of Jeeps and stuff. And they promoted the bear to corporal. And then basically he just carried on doing his own stuff. He also foiled apparently he also foiled someone was coming to spy on the camp. And then he caught that dude as well, which is pretty random. But the bear got promoted to corporal, which is fucking bizarre. And then the regiment then also used the bear as their emblem, and there's a picture of a bear with like a fucking rocket, and that's their emblem, which is pretty sweet. I mean, you'd think it was all bollocks.
That's cool.
When I heard about this story, I was like, man, this is wild. No way. And it had like a bunch of animation with it as well. Like a bear was smoking a cigarette and then eating it, like. And I'm like, man, this is nonsense. And then it was only like 20 minutes. But by the time the bear got promoted to corporal, I was like, you've got to be kidding me. Where's this fucking going? I mean, I was expecting him to get promoted full force to just fucking head of the Polish fucking army, like at the rate he was going. But eventually, apparently, after the war ended, he ended up in the UK, in Edinburgh Zoo, which is lived out his happy days there, which is pretty crazy. I had to look into this because I was like, this can't be real. It just got wilder and wilder. Like he was smoking, then drinking, and then the people would wrestle with him and shit, and then he was foiling stuff, and then again, you know, then it was like, yeah, and then next thing he was carrying missiles and fucking ammunition, and I'm like,
Right.
this is getting it. And then he got promoted. I'm like, Jesus, this can't get any worse. It couldn't get any crazier.
That's awesome.
It's a very crazy story, but animals, you know, that's where I think they should be replaced in war, because that might have been a fun time for that bear, but if it was a dog, that'd be pretty shit, man. You know, and I don't think he'd be able to carry them ammunition crates.
Yeah.
And I don't think he'd get promoted either, which would suck. So you know, I couldn't imagine that would happen in modern day times. An animal getting promoted to an official rank, you know, so strange. So strange. You got any closing thoughts on a good hour here?
This is fun. This is fun as hell.
I mean, we can continue. I mean, I've got a bunch of more topics.
No, I am going to get going.
But you do seem a pretty busy guy. Again, you know, this is it's been a very fun show.
Yeah, it's fun as hell.
It's been very random. I did try and keep on the dogs mostly.
That's okay. That was fun. It was great.
Short notice.
So yeah, closing thoughts. Yeah, you know, treat yourselves well, treat your animals well. See if you can tell what your dog's trying to tell you. You know, take your dog for a walk and just give them the leash, right? Let them go where they want to go and see if you can notice something different. And
anything else to promote? I mean, you've got your website.
Yeah, I got the website. I do have a book coming out. It's at the publishers now. It's titled "Let Your Dog Lead."
Ooh,
Let Your Dog Lead, and that should be out within a couple months, I think. So it'll be on, you know, Amazon, Barnes and Noble, blah blah blah, all the larger outlets over here. I'm not sure what you guys have over there.
We have Waterstones.
Okay.
And W.H. Smith.
Okay.
They're our only book retailers.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know if we'll be on those or not, but yeah, so that's cool. I got the course coaching book coming out. I'm actually going to be launching an app as well, but I haven't done that yet.
That's pretty cool. Could have got into that at the start. That's the second time on this show someone's at the end is like, oh, I've got an app coming out as well. And I'm like, bollocks.
Oh, yeah. Well,
What's that entail?
I'll check in with you later about it and let you know.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, so yeah, it's basically creating a coaching platform on an app. So you can literally, you know, on your phone, out in the middle of nowhere, you can have stuff with you.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. Where can people follow you, man?
Um, I don't do a lot of Facebook. I'm not a big social media guy.
Okay.
And that's okay. So I can be contacted again through my website. I can be reached at Michael, Michael at dogsandmen.com. They can just go right to the site, dogsandmen.com. I've got a thing there if you want to email me, contact me there. Yeah, that's about it. Keeping it small.
That's the best way sometimes, minimalistic.
Yeah.
I've spread myself out a bit thin on social media and it takes a lot of time. So believe me, I can kind of be on your side there and go,
Yeah.
just the website's very good. But listen, this has been a fantastic show, man. It's been very funny. Sorry, we've not spoke too much more about dogs. I've tried to keep it on topic as
That's okay. We
best
can
as I
do it
can.
again sometime.
Absolutely. Well, again, I always invite people back. I've had a few regulars, but it'd be fun when when you've released maybe around or just before you're about to release your app, and then we
Okay.
can just promote the fuck out of it.
Oh, hell yeah. That'd
Uh,
be great.
this has been the Post-Human Podcast. I've been your host Tim Turner. Tonight we've been here with with Michael Overlie. I got it right that time, didn't I?
Got it right.
Yeah. There we go. That's my only win. And catch you next time, people. Thank you very much.
Cheers.